and welcome to Charlene and Chelsea's podcast. I'm Chelsea,
And this is Charlene.
and the title of today's episode is Beyond Words Leading Through Barriers. Today's episode is especially close to our hearts. We're focusing in the field of education, specifically leadership in education. We're going to explore a scenario that touches on confidence, mental health, and of course, language barriers.
Yes, and we'll most likely be delving into what it really takes to be the ideal leader in the situations. This is where the principles of leadership comes into play and the effective strategies for communication and fostering inclusivity.
Perfect. Let's set the scene. You are teaching a student who is both new to the school and the English language. How can we help the student feel comfortable at school and integrate with the student body?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. Imagine being the new kid at school. That is tough. But now imagine going in and you couldn't understand a word that everyone is saying. Even tougher, right? Unfortunately, this is what some kids are having to face. So, this is a situation that you and I are very familiar with. To give you some context, listeners, me and Chelsea both immigrated to Canada from the Philippines. And coming here, of course, English was not a first language.
That is correct. We wanted to explore this since recent statistics show that non-English speaking students in Canadian schools have been steadily increasing. In fact, according to the Edmonton Journal, there are almost 33,400 international immigrants that came just last 2022.
That's a lot of immigrants.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of new students.
So, what do you think would make someone the right person to lead through this scenario? Personally, I think empathy, patience, communication skills, and cultural competency would be characteristics that would be essential.
Yeah, definitely. Everything that you've said is just spot on. But we forget about this very important stuff, the personal reflection. We have to ask ourselves, am I the right person? Why or why not? This actually helps us lead with the authenticity and self-awareness. And this is what we really bring into the table.
Yeah. And to add to that, reflecting on our own experiences too and learning from them can make it easier to empathize with other people. And it becomes easier to put ourselves in their shoes and when we ourselves have been in the same situation.
Yeah, and I feel like even if you have not had the same experiences, this is where being patient comes into play.
Right.
Like, allow them to express themselves however they want and however they can. And you have to understand where they're coming from, really.
Right. And, like sometimes when we are interacting with someone who is of different cultural background, we start to notice different mannerisms and different communication styles. And I think that someone who is capable of acknowledging this would be an ideal leader in situations like this.
Yeah, to relate to that situation from my own experience, I found that it is also important to have a leader who is capable of helping the students solve the problem. In this case, building confidence in speaking in English.
Right.
Like the one who can be genuine when empowering you. Like someone who could be honest about what you could improve on and provide you with the right resources and enough practice to get better in speaking English.
Yeah.
For example, the one that I could think of is the principal who encouraged me to do public speaking and share my experiences, even if I was just starting to talk in English. Like, I would have grammatical errors in stuttering whenever I talk. And I also had the opportunity to teach my neighbor, who is an immigrant from Vietnam, actually, to pass his IELTS. And like what you've said, being patient is crucial. Like, I had to meet him every day at the library, or we go to McDonald's to practice his speaking skills. And yes, like learning the cultural background helped me a lot while teaching him. I found out that in Vietnam, they actually don't speak English at all. And most of them are having a hard time pronouncing words with SH and R because they rarely use it in their language or they use it in a different way.
Right.
So what I ask him to do is watch movies without subtitles and listen to the radio every morning. That's what I technically did when I was starting. And then he would tell me about it. And then after that, I will give him a feedback on how well he communicated it and if his phonetics and pronunciations improved.
Oh, that's so interesting. These are definitely some really good insights to the importance of these different traits when leading in this kind of scenario. And it looks to me that you would be the right kind of person to lead through this scenario.
Oh, thank you, Chelsea. But you know what? These characteristics can all be learned. And to go back to the idea earlier, it's also about knowing yourself. Like, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. And we've both had similar experiences with the student, like being a student here. And I'm sure you would be more than capable of leveraging what you've experienced and your strengths to lead through this scenario as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I know you kind of touched on how an ideal leader should approach this scenario, but I want to explore more about some other leadership principles and strategies that one can use to better help the student in this scenario.
Yeah. Strategies from our module, especially about the building effective teams and intercultural competency, can be vital here. Like, for instance, you could create buddy systems, which is effectively building a team, and you pair the student with peers that could help them navigate the school, and that could really make a huge difference.
Yeah, I've actually seen this work, and I would actually like to dive deeper into some experiences that are similar to the student in this scenario. With this, I want to hear what types of leadership worked for you and helped you overcome your situation. Do you have similar experiences that shed some light on what types of leadership strategies that might work and help the student in this scenario?
Yeah, so mine, it's kind of a similar experience to the situation that we talked about. So I came here 2017, and that was before my 16th birthday for an extra trivia. I went looking for a job right away. So when I had my interview, I noticed that the interviewing manager was actually Filipino. So that kind of helped me compose myself, and I didn't feel anxious because, you know, the familiarity that comes with, you know, someone who shares the same cultural background as you do.
Yeah.
But being on a job was a totally different thing. Like, I could not understand some of the orders because, like, some Canadians speak really fast and
Yeah,
they pronounce things differently. I'll give you an example. Like bag, we call it bag, but here they call it bag. I will often mispronounce some words and even stutter because I get really anxious when people speak fast, you know.
Yeah.
But really, it's my first job that gave me more training and exposure to the language itself. And this is because of the manager for sure that helped me, and also my co-workers that will help me when I could not comprehend some words. Like, they will take my place and take the order or explain to me what the person said.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Academic wise, this is what I could think of. I wasn't really given the opportunity to take ESL because they think my English skills are adequate. But that still gave me a hard time because I'm not really good at like writing. So because my teacher was really nice, she took her time to explain some concepts, I definitely learned a lot. And my principal also encouraged me to join a club where I got to meet different high school kids from different backgrounds that are interested in Canadian citizenship. So that actually helped me a lot in building my confidence. And he urged me to do a public speaking, and that really empowered me because I remember telling him that my skills are not good enough and I might stutter and that's gonna be embarrassing. But then he told me that it's okay, that I could use this as a practice to learn and hone my skills in English, which I think, and I could confirm that it totally helped me.
Yeah, that's lovely. I definitely see a common strategy here. I feel that teachers, principals, and leaders in general can employ the concept of active listening, obviously beyond words, but listening to the student and looking for cues that they are struggling. I love how your principal have encouraged interactions and your teachers have encouraged interactions by asking some powerful questions to you, which I think would be very applicable in the scenario as well that we're exploring. I would also like to point out that you have used the art of storytelling to further explore what would work for this scenario. I feel like storytelling, especially when combined with personal experiences, can emphasize some insights and, in this case, highlighting some leadership principles that have proven to be effective in this kind of scenario.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so moving on, obviously communication is key, especially when dealing with language barriers. What do you think is the most effective form of communication to deal with this scenario?
So it is definitely more than just words. It's about creating a safe space where the student feels comfortable expressing themselves. Actually, there's a new study that I found from Concordia University that shed light into this particular scenario. They found that most people are harsh on themselves when speaking in a second language, and probably this is due to the accents and their level of confidence when speaking,
Right.
in this case, English. And they found out that university students that has English as their second language are really reluctant to seek out interactions because they think they will not be liked because of how they speak. And for me, this is a barrier that could limit positive interactions that could foster friendships or meaningful relationships,
Right.
and this could hinder their development of their second language skill.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that can also be very detrimental to their mental health, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like our sense of belonging and ability to foster meaningful relationship can play a huge role in developing feelings of loneliness.
Precisely. Like, I would want to say this is why the role of a leader isn't just about helping the student succeed academically. It's equally about listening and understanding what the student needs and wants for themselves.
Right. And I feel like that could also help them adjust better. So, how do you think leaders can facilitate this kind of supportive and open communication?
First, it is important to create an environment that would allow the student to feel valued and understood. Like, you could include fun visual aids, you
Hmm.
could try to understand their body language when speaking, are they comfortable or not, and use a simple language or phrases to ensure that they will understand the message that you're trying to communicate. Like, nothing deep, you
Yeah,
know?
I feel like that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it's becoming more clear that creating a nurturing environment where the student is encouraged to share their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment would be critical in this scenario.
Yes, I actually found another study from 2021 that shows that praises and caring behavior of teachers make the student feel valued and included.
Yeah, and I feel like that's definitely something that we have seen even with English speaking children as well, and can definitely be an effective communication tool to deal with this scenario. Charlene, I want to finish up with exploring how our values align with this scenario. I know you have already talked about your own experience, but let us dive deeper into our core values and how they play a role in this situation.
Absolutely. At the heart of my approach to leadership and counseling is a strong belief in richness that cultural diversity brings. We're in Canada, right? We have to embrace these differences and learn from each other. And this will not only create an inclusive culture, but also prepare students for a more globalized world.
Yeah, just having that global mindset, right?
Drawing from my own experiences, I find this scenario hitting close to home. I understand the struggle and, of course, the emotions or feeling of intimidation that can arise while immersing yourself not only in a different language, but also in a very different culture.
That sounds incredibly powerful. It actually shows that our values not only shape our actions, but also define the impact we aim to have within leadership roles. Creating spaces where every student, irrespective of their linguistic background, feels valued, understood, and supported is a reflection of those values in action.
Precisely, it's about embodying these values in our daily interactions. It's a commitment really to not just educate but also nurture and empower every student to navigate the complexities of this diverse world.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Charlene, for sharing your insights and experiences. It's clear that integrating our core values into our approach to leadership, especially in supporting non English speakers, is not just beneficial, but essential for creating a more inclusive, empathetic, and successful environment for all. It has been my pleasure to explore such critical topics with you. Thanks so much for an excellent podcast episode. It's been such an insightful discussion.
Yeah, it's been awesome to discuss this topic with you.
I also want to thank our listeners for joining us in this important conversation. We really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And as we part ways, let's carry forward the message of inclusivity, respect, and the power of our values in making a difference in the lives of students. Until next time,
Bye.
bye.